Me to change, they want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah, I remain the same.
Oh, all right. You are now tuned in to another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you in conjunction with Beautiful Machine Magazine. Kind of caught me drinking a little bit, my bad. And the mighty Nerd DJs Radio. Y'all already know, man. Every week, every month, every year, every second, we only rock with legends around here. And today is absolutely no exception. We have advocate, public speaker, researcher, historian, one of the most phenomenal people you will ever meet in your existence, Miss YaSINAH Muhammad. Welcome to the conversation, and thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And how you doing, Queen? How's your family?
I'm doing good. They're doing good. Just very happy to be here.
I am happy to be here also, and I don't think I say that enough. Um, what where does your story start? Where would you like to start in your story on our show today?
Well, I'll start with I am a human trafficking survivor, and I've spent the past about 22 years now, raising awareness of the effects of human trafficking, what it looks like, uh, discounting and denoting all of the stereotypes that are out there about human trafficking, and trying to help save as many humans, because it's not just girls and boys. It's not just girls, it's also boys. It's not just grown women, it's also grown men.
Really?
Yes.
I did
So
not know that.
working to bring awareness to it, and I use my social media platforms, particularly Facebook, to post missing persons reports, so we can put faces out there.
And I know traumatic experiences can be difficult and having to relive when people want you to talk about it over and over and over. Whatever you would feel more comfortable talking about when it happened to you, I'd be interested in knowing specifically, like, how did it start?
Well, it started, I was 3 years old, and my uncle, he was the youngest sibling of my mom. And my grandmother had 12 children, and he was the youngest boy. And he at 3, he picked me up, took me into the laundry room, and he molested me. And he told me if I told anybody, he not only kill me, but he would kill my mom and my sister. I had one sister at that time, and I remember that vividly. We were living in Memphis, Tennessee, on Wicks Street, and so from the age of 3 to the age of 7, he sold me to his friends. And he got murdered when he was 17 years old, because he was the head of a gang in Memphis. And he got murdered delivering mail to the mailbox late at night for my grandmother. And shortly after him, I started getting trafficked in the church that we belonged to. And that took place from the age of 7 until I was 19. And in between that time, my mother trafficked me to her boyfriends. So from the age of 3 until I was 19 years old, I was sold to different people, and my 3 of my traffickers who I worked at, one of them in particular was 3 brothers who were the preachers they were the sons of the reverend whose church we belonged to.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a church called Prospect Park Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis. And so the sons, Don, Gary, and Joe Smith, um, for Don, my mother sold me to him in the summertime. I worked as a domestic servant for him and as a sex slave, starting at the age of 14 years old. Um, and it was myself and another young lady who belonged to the church as well. And he drug us with uh, liquid cocaine. He put cocaine in champagne and make us drink it. And so we he'd have us there on the weekend, and then during the week I would stay during the summertime, and I was responsible for cooking and cleaning. And Don and Joe, I'm not Don, but Gary and Joe, uh, they were abusive. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just their punching bag, um, and um, and raped a lot by them. But just to backtrack, I come from a family before everybody started changing their lives around. I came from a family of human traffickers. Um, After slavery, my great grandmother and her mother and her sisters, they inherited the plantation down in Mississippi that my aunt, my grandma Josie, great grandmother Josie, that her father was ex slave master,
Mm-hmm.
and they inherited that land, and they turned that house into a brothel. And so my grandmother, my mother's mother, was sold out of that brothel by her mother, my great grandmother, from the age of 3 until the age of 10, when my grandfather, who was 21 at the time, married my 10-year-old grandmother just to get her out of that brothel.
Mm.
And so my grandmother gave birth to 6 girls and 6 boys. And to my understanding, every last one of those girls were sexually and physically abused. So fast forward, my mother and my father had known each other since they were young children when my grandparents moved to Memphis. And my mom and my dad, they met each other. I think they were around 8 and 9 years old, somewhere in between there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were childhood sweethearts. And my mother got pregnant with me at 14. So, and she didn't want me. So she tried for 7 months to abort me, and she couldn't. So um, when I was born, she didn't take care of me. My primarily taken care of by my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
and so there wasn't that mother daughter attachment
Right.
between she and I until maybe about she passed a few years ago. So from 2012 until 2000, she passed in 22 to 2022. We had that 10 years to repair our relationship. But
Did you forgive her?
I did. I did. And I'll tell you why. Because she was a grown woman dealing with her own trauma. And she was a 14-year-old girl who had her own hopes and dreams of her future.
Mm-hmm.
And not my fault, it's God's fault. I mean, God's plan, because he
Mm-hmm.
don't make faults, but God's plan that I come into existence. But because her anger was out of me disrupting what she had planned for her own life.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at her as that 14-year-old girl who was never able to heal from her own trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did forgive her. That's my mother. Regardless of the circumstances, she's still my mother. Her womb was still the womb God chose to bring me through. And the Bible says, honor thy mother and, and thy father, that your days may be longer in the land of your Lord. And the Holy Quran says that we don't even say fi to our parents, which means we don't get to say shame on you.
Did she ever apologize?
No, no. Her mother never apologized to her. Her mother never apologized to her. But forgiveness is not for somebody else. Forgiveness is for yourself.
Yeah, but it's got to be wrong to somebody.
It was wrong to everybody.
Well, they have to. What I mean is, like, somebody in that chain, it has to be wrong to them for them to be, say, I guess you are that person.
But even sometimes, especially when you're dealing with trauma, even if you know that it's wrong, anything can trigger you. She had her own demons. I don't make excuses for it, but I had to grow to understand her. So she and I didn't speak for 3 years. And from 19, no, sorry, not in 19, from 2008 until 2011, we didn't speak because I lived in Oklahoma with her and trying to repair a relationship. And she was married at the time. And she was Jehovah's Witness by then. I'm Muslim. So it was a very traumatic experience because because they wanted to force me to live a life that I didn't want to live. And so she said I made her I was making, this was in December of 2007. She said that I was making her and her husband uncomfortable. And so in January, the day after New Year, she was getting ready to go to work and she wanted me to leave. So I left and I didn't speak to her for 3 years. But in that 3 years, I went to Chicago and I spent time with my aunts, my Aunt Carol and my Aunt Mary. May Allah be pleased with my Aunt Mary. I spent time with them and my Aunt Joyce. And I asked them as much as they could tell me without reliving their own trauma to find out things about my mother that I didn't know, to help me to better understand how, if there ever came a time at that point, because we weren't speaking, I just want to know how, if there ever came a point, how can I tap into that little girl in her and help heal that little girl to the point where she and I could have a relationship. So I never brought up to my mother what happened, what she did.
Never.
No. Why? Well, I did one time. We were in Chicago.
She deserved to know how you felt.
She knew I had told her all my life how I felt. And her response was, so it happened to me. Get over it. But that's someone speaking out of their own trauma.
It's just hard to conceptualize a mother being that way to her own daughter. And I get what you're saying, and unfortunately I had like a lineage of this. So it was the norm for your family. As warped as it sounds,
Yeah.
when you're in it, you can't see past, what's actually happening in your world.
So then you have to, so for me, I took a step back. Like I said, I learned how to control the narrative of our relationship.
Okay.
And I handled her like a therapist would handle a patient, which was healing for me. Because as I'm getting to know her and her trauma, it made me understand her better. Again, it's not, I don't dismiss what happened because that was painful.
Yeah.
But she's still my mom. Now, I have children. my mother was able to get to know my children before she passed. They had a beautiful relationship. Now, would I have sent my children to her during the summertime? No, not without me, because I'm their protector.
At any point, did they notice that they couldn't do some things with grandma that other people could do with their grandmother?
We live hundreds of miles
Okay.
apart.
So it didn't make, I get you.
So,
Yeah.
but they could call her. Not just my mother, there are family members I wouldn't dare leave my children with.
Man, you ain't lying about that one. It ain't got nothing to do with no human trafficking.
Ain't
They
got
just
no,
horrible
no, it's
people.
just right. So no, I wouldn't. But I wanted them to. It's something, and I'm not near grandmother status yet, but I got to see it in my mother. There's something about when a woman becomes a grandparent
Yeah.
that they look at, and it's probably true for men too, but because of the mistakes that they know that they made with their own children, when those grandchildren come,
Yep.
they're a lot more mellow, they're a lot more caring. It's very different. So I made sure not to deprive my children of that where my mother was concerned, because I saw the beauty of her in her with dealing with my siblings. So the love was there. It just wasn't there to that degree with me.
So it was just you out of your siblings.
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
I'll leave it at that. Um,
But their relationship was different. And if my youngest sister was with me, she would say to you that I was the sacrificial lamb. So I took things so that they wouldn't have to. And whatever they endured, it was long after I left.
okay. And it probably wasn't as harsh or as long because of you.
Right.
Okay.
So they weren't subjected to, um, and my sister and I talk about this, they were never subjected to being beaten with extension cords and put in hot water and alcohol poured on your body. They weren't subjected to things like that.
Did anybody at any point say don't do that?
If they did, they didn't say it in my presence, but they all knew. My grandparents knew, which is why my grandparents, I stayed more with them than I did at home. So if things got too bad, I called my granddad and say, "Hey, can you come get me?" So I was 9, 10 years old going to my grandparents just to get a break, and then I go back.
How did you find your way to the nation? Or was there, a matter of fact, is there a moment where you knew this is my path?
So when I was a little girl, particularly when I entered my teenage years, we lived in an area in Memphis called Texas Court. And there was this beautiful landscape. You walk outside and it's just really beautiful in the middle of the hood. But I would go out there and I'd pray. And I would ask God, I was like, send somebody to my house. Cause you back then we watching, what was that movie with Eddie Murphy and that little Asian little boy?
Oh, the golden child.
The Golden Child. So,
Yeah.
so I'm watching, movies like this, and I'm like, God, send me somebody that could tell my mama that I'm special. And not only that, take me somewhere away from here so I can go be with people who are just like me, and I don't have to pretend. Because my mother always she called me strange fruit. It wasn't until I listened to Billie Holiday that I really realized what that meant. But
That's why I'm like,
she
wow, that's
she called me strange fruit. Um, she's like out of all her children, she just couldn't get a handle on me. Um, but I knew that there was somewhere special that I was supposed to be. And in 1994, December 1994, I graduated from a computer programming class in Memphis. And at our graduation, I stood up and I answered some question that they had on the floor. And there was a young lady, when I sat down, there was a young lady who was sitting in front of me. She said, "Are you Muslim?" I said, "No." She said, "Yes, you are. You just don't know it." And that was Sister Tina, and still one of my best friends to this day. Um, and so I started going to the study group in Holly Springs. And then I received my Muhammad because in 1997, that was the last time Minister Farrakhan gave the name Muhammad. And he, um, and he said, if you were in processing or you're registered, you could come to that believers meeting. And in that believers meeting, he gave us all the name Muhammad. And and so I graduated in August of 1997 out of our Muslim girls training class. So I've been in the nation registered since 1997, but going in and out the mosque from it started in 1994. But when I thought back to my life, like early years, there was this radio store around the corner on Mississippi. It was called Boss Ugly Bob's in Memphis. And Brother Bob, you go in there, and I didn't know who Minister Farrakhan was, but he had pictures of Minister Farrakhan all over his walls and stuff. And I went in there. I had to have been maybe 7, and it was dark. And we had been going in and out that store all the time, but it was getting dark that day. And Mr. Bob, he looked over the counter. He looked down at me. He said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be at home? It's dark. Get your butt back home." And my cousins and I ran home, and I never went back. Fast forward, as a registered uh, member of the Nation of Islam, his wife was one of my mentors.
oh wow.
His wife, Sister Claudette Karemi, Allah be pleased with them both. She lived in Twinkletown, which is it's in Whitehaven, and so I was at Mosque 55. That was like another mom for me. She was, and to the day she passed. So I was like, wow, you know, a lot, everything is designed. He has everything designed. So once I joined the nation, it's been no turning back. I've grown. I had a seizure. Um, we're coming up on 4 years. Be 4 years tomorrow. And I lost a lot of my memory. So it's funny because when I do shows like this, stuff comes back, and it's like, oh. So I'll be calling my sister in a minute when we get off, saying, "Okay, did this happen, right?" And she'll go, "Yep, yep." But I lost a lot of my memory, and there are things that I may never remember, but but what I do remember, I rejoice in it. So I can have the conversations about my life with human trafficking, and I know that was a part of my life, but I'm not triggered by it, and I'm not traumatized.
You know what? Over the years, especially since I met student minister Troy. What I've noticed about members of the Nation of Islam is I've never seen one angry. Not to say that you guys don't get angry, but I always, everybody that I've seen just seems peaceful. There's just something about you that is like you are so comfortable in your own skin that you are just at peace. And you don't see that often.
Hmm. I can only speak for me, because yeah, I do have those days, Brother Job. I do have those days. Who do I have those days? But every day after I make Fajr prayer, before I get off my prayer rug, and it drives my children crazy because I sing it too. I say, today is a great day, no matter what comes my way. Today's a great day. No matter what people say, today is a great day. And I've been doing it, and people get on my nerves, and I have to take a step back, woosah sometimes, and and then settle on the best part of stuff. Now I had a situation last week where it was fire and brimstone inside of me, and I just wanted to urge some people. But after I got off of my high horse and I listened to the God within, it's like, girl, what you tripping about? Whatever happens, you can only control you. Can't control anybody else. You can only control you. Only person's emotions I can control is mine. And I know that the angrier I get, higher my blood pressure is going to go.
Oh, listen.
The angrier I get, I can't think clearly. So if I'm angry, I can't hear God giving me what I need to help me get through the situation. Because it don't last long. It's just silencing the noise in my mind and allowing God to speak through me. Not easy, but in doing so, I don't cause catastrophes. I don't blow up relationships.
Yeah.
And I don't waste time.
Let me ask you this, and this is something I ask everybody that comes on the show. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but here goes. You're sitting on a park bench,
Mhm.
and God sits down next to you, and he or she says you can ask them one question. What would it be?
Why me?
I think that's probably the most popular answer. I think about three or four people have said that one. And I'm always curious as to know what is it about you that you're wondering why you? Is it the bad parts or the redemption? And I don't know if redemption is the right word,
It's the
but
beauty. It's the
the
beauty of
transition.
it's the beauty of the journey.
Okay.
What's so special about me that you chose me? What does my soul, what part does my soul play in the universe? What impact as I'm trying to draw closer to you? What does the elevation of my soul do to the universe? Does it make it a better, does it add to the purity of the universe? Does it add to your mission? Does it add to someone else, either in the present or in the near future, does my existence, my reality right now, have a positive effect to what goes on in the universe and for at this time and in the future?
So that's amazing. Um, Geez, well, you made me forget my question. Uh, oh, you publish books also, correct?
I do.
And that's through Video to Books
Videos to
LLC.
books. Yes, sir.
Now, if somebody wants to get a book published through you, how they go about doing that?
They can contact me at videos to books. It's VIDEOS, the number two, books, BOOKS, at gmail.com. Or they can call my business number at 248-291-7753. And I will, and I'll speak to them, get an idea of what they're trying to do, what their desire is, and see if we're a good fit. Because I'm not a good fit for everybody, and everybody's not a good fit for me.
Understood.
There are some there are some manuscripts I won't touch. Um, and it could be the best of the best of the best. But if my soul is not at peace with it, I don't touch it.
Who did the art behind you?
Me.
Really?
So after I had the seizure, lost the memory, I forgot how to cook, I forgot how to drive. I didn't know my right from my left, didn't know what emotions were, and I was in complete darkness. I didn't know my children, didn't know I had children, didn't know I had siblings, didn't know I was married, didn't know the people at the mosque, all of them. So, not a therapist, but my neurologist suggested paint therapy to paint myself out of darkness into light. And when I started out, it was just, I just painted it black. The whole canvas was just black.
Where's that one at?
I actually sold it. So I have art all over the country.
I'm curious. After the seizure, did you have to restart your relationship with Allah?
Actually, I when I woke up, I didn't know much about anything else, but I knew who God was. I knew who Allah was. I knew who Master Fard Muhammad was. I knew who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan were and are. I didn't lose that. It was, I say, a lot of the trauma. So people will say, you're nothing like that. Like you're nothing like you were before you had the seizure. And my response is always, and I always look at who says it. And my response for the most part is, well, if that was a person who you ran over, you treated badly, no, that person don't exist no more. I don't have that. She's not there. Um, but no, and to wake up and still know God, I'm like bonus. Everybody else, I get to know him or don't. It don't matter to me.
That's gotta be a religious confidence booster if I've ever heard one.
But nothing happens except by Allah's active and or permissive will. So I have people ask, aren't you mad? About what? So what? I don't like Gouda cheese no more. Okay. I mean, it's something else out there to like. But if he allowed it, it was for a reason. And And I'm at peace with that.
It might have just been like an acceleration of healing because you forgot a lot of stuff that you didn't need to remember anyway.
Yeah.
So some of the trauma that you would spend another 20, 30 years, if ever, trying to relieve yourself of, it was gone in an instant. Business wise.
I should have been talking to you because then I didn't pay the therapist no way. Like she got on my nerves. Gosh, she got on my nerves. I think I made the Guinness record of firing a therapist. But
I've stopped going after one session myself. So, and I think that I don't want anybody to take away that therapy is bad. But I think for therapy to work, you have to believe in the therapist.
that part. And for a therapist to effectively work, they cannot make you believe the reality that they painted in their minds.
And they gotta believe you're fixable.
But I
They
don't.
they just taking your money if they don't
But
think you're
no,
fixable.
don't try to fix anybody
Really?
because you can't fix them. You can't fix somebody. You can give them the tools to help them in the process of them becoming the person that they desire to become. But that's internal work. So you can give me the tools, but you're not my fixer.
Okay, that's fair.
That's between me and God. But He brought you here, so you give me the tools. I have to do the work because if I sit there and if I'm sitting with a therapist and I'm telling you everything's good while we're in therapy, but when I leave, I'm 2 seconds later. I'm back in that state. A month later, I'm back in that state. It's got to be something else. It's an internal.
Okay.
It's internal. But I like therapists. I think I know a few, and they're really cool, and
Okay.
they help me.
And you're also a member of several other organizations.
Mhm.
I'm just going off your bio. Girls to Goddesses. What does that consist of?
That's Sister Malika, and she's amazing. So she puts together workshops to help young girls, and she goes into the schools. I don't do. She's not active like we used to be, but she still goes into the school. She still does things in the community to help young girls.
I like the name too.
I do too. That's what when she pitched it to me years ago, I jumped on board.
Citizens Radio Patrol of Detroit. Is that like patrolling the neighborhoods?
Yes. So that's what they do. They had an event a couple of months ago, and I spoke at their event on human trafficking. So if they call me, somebody, if Myra calls me and she wants some information about some things, then she and I have a talk. And if I want some information about some things, then she'll give me some information. But they are doing an amazing job. They patrol different areas in Detroit to help to spot crime. And then they, report it to the local police precincts and have them to come out to investigate more.
Most valuable lesson you teach people about trafficking.
Just one. Okay.
You know what? Let's make it three.
Okay, three. One, don't watch that movie Taken because that's not it. No, no, brother, I'm telling you, it's such a, it's mind boggling how people think that that's it.
Really?
Yes.
That somebody's going to come save them like that guy.
Or that's the only thing about trafficking that is so that only white people get trafficked, what young white girls. That yes, somebody's gonna probably come and save them. And it's sensationalized.
Yeah.
So every black girl is not that gets that comes up missing is not a Jezebel. We do get taken.
Yes.
We're not prostitutes out there on the street. We don't leave home um because we're trying to be with some boy. No, somebody's taken that child or that woman or that boy or that man. So I think that was two. And the third one is the third one I would say is that when a victim who's making their way towards survivor, that healing, that journey of healing, that person who left, the way you saw them the last time is not who they're going to be when they come back. So you have to get to know that person and help that person because that person is now traumatized. And it's not an overnight thing. So that 13-year-old girl who was just at home probably playing with dolls, but somebody took her. When she comes back, depending on what happened to her, she's no longer that 13-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
So you have to be patient.
What advice would you give a man on how to love a woman who's had that experience?
Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna give you the good version, the cleaned up version. It was the thought that went through my mind. Lord, I need help.
Although you can
Okay.
say whatever you want to say, I
Nope,
don't really
nope,
care.
nope, nope.
But
I'm still
we'll do the
Muslim.
clean version.
It's don't if your heart is not right, leave her alone. Leave her alone. Don't even don't go down that road if your heart is not right. If your heart is right and you want the woman, not the victim, because some folks want the victim. They don't want the woman.
Sometimes that's all they can give you. I met a woman once that I remember thinking to myself, she's in love with her trauma. In that she never seemed like she said she was in therapy and everything, but she never like everything was I can't do it because of this that happened years ago.
She's she's stuck on a
Yeah.
time track. It's not that
Yes.
she's in love with it. She's stuck. That's why I always say everybody is not for everybody. Because when you're dealing with someone or you're trying to have a relationship with someone who's been through, my experience. You have to have patience. Um, and learn. Okay, maybe don't say you have to learn just like any other person. A person who's never been abused, they still have triggers.
Yeah.
So learning how not to trigger that person. It's not going to always be easy, and encourage them to get the help that they need. But be a friend more than anything, because it's hard. It took a long time, even after especially on this side, after I had the seizure, it took a long time for me to get comfortable with going outside. it took a long time for me to get, I'm just at a point, and I still have those days. I'm just at a point where people can touch me.
I hate being touched by random people.
No, they don't they're not random people,
Oh, family.
even family. I would get sick if someone touched me. It took a minute for my children to be able to hug me.
Really?
My children taught me patience, how to be patient with them and how to be patient with myself. Yeah,
So have you written about this?
I did. I wrote a book called Faith Without Measure. I'm going to write another one because that one was that one deals with all the trauma. Well, to a degree. But to see where I am now, um, this is really faith without measure because I don't measure my progress. It's immeasurable. And it's ongoing. So I don't try to be perfect anymore. I don't try to be whoever somebody else thought I was. I had to learn to be comfortable in my own skin, be comfortable with everything that comes with being YaSINAH. I have I have neurological issues that I deal with. I have pain that I deal with. But nobody would know that with me. You see me walking around the mosque, you wouldn't dare think so. But it's learning to be comfortable with me. So I say that to anybody who's dealing with any kind of trauma as you're going through your healing process. Be okay with who you are at this stage. And then where I see that I want to make progress in certain areas for myself because I see, oh, if I do this and I do that, then this will help me to be this a better person in this area. But it's internal. That's why I said a therapist can give you the tools, but you got to use them.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing process. But for a man, it's patience and it's kindness and it's talking to my biggest go to treat people how you want to be treated. Um, and then when you see this is not going well, be especially if you're not married, be kind enough to that person and to yourself to get out of that relationship because you don't want to find yourself being a target either or a punching bag either, you know.
And unfortunately, a lot of times, I think that's what happens is that they get comfortable. You get comfortable trying to quote unquote fix her,
Right.
and she gets
Teach
comfortable
on that.
unloading. Oh my God! I've tried it.
Because you can't fix
You
anybody.
can't. You can't even fix your damn self half the
Even
time. You're trying to fix somebody else.
but the here's the beauty of it though. Is interesting as it is that with that component is that a person sees the beauty in you so much that they want to try to fix you.
Yeah.
But because you want them to always live in that beauty. But they got to go through whatever they're going through to get to that point.
Yeah.
The worst thing a person can do is try to mold somebody and shape them into somebody that they want them to be, though. Because you can't do that either. And like you said, that girl, she just might like living in her trauma.
Um. Yeah.
And
Well,
if it,
you know, everybody has a key
mm,
in someone else.
yep,
You know, so if you may not be the key for that person,
yep,
but somebody out here that's gonna unlock you unlike anybody else, and the odds are you may not even be able to explain it.
Yeah. I have a couple of people like that. And they can pull things out of me, uh, and show me parts of myself just by me being humble enough and not fighting
Yeah,
against it. Well, they know how to talk to me, so they talk to me in a certain way, and I respond in a certain way.
that
Whereas
part.
whereas somebody else can't do that.
Yeah, and my mother was kind of like that. My mother was a very stubborn woman. Give you her last, but she was when she felt the way, she felt the way. My ex had, I used to call her the Lorraine Whisperer. That was my mother's name because my mother just never said no to her.
Mm.
If I needed her to do, I needed my mother to go somewhere, go to the doctor or something like that. I sent her.
Mm.
And it just, she was absolutely a key for my mother, unlike anybody else.
And then the last part that I would say about that is for victims and survivors getting into relationships to be careful and learn how to, but that comes with getting to know yourself, because the worst thing is to have somebody who constantly throws your past it up in your face,
Yeah.
who gets a kick out of re-traumatizing you and always remind you of where you came of what they think and who they think you were prior to them coming into your life. That's even with a person who's been in a domestic violence relationship,
Yeah.
a person that's been, a drug addict. My dad was a drug addict, and and I spent a lot of years going into the crack dens. But when he got himself, even when he was on drugs, I never. That's just my dad. And when he got sober, I never brought it up to him because that was
That,
the old him.
that's amazing. Cause I had an uncle that was a crackhead. I never let that nigga forget it. Excuse my language, but he wasn't well, he never stopped either. He had gaps. And during those gaps, he was never repentant. It was never oh my bad, I did so and so. It was like I did so and so because now what? I ain't smoking no more, nephew. No. Oh my God, rest in peace, huh? God.
Yeah, and then one of the things I learned from the only reason why my dad had been in and out of rehab because he's dealing with his own trauma,
Yeah.
masking his own pain. The only reason why my dad got sober and he stayed sober was because when my grandmother became ill, so my grandparents weren't together, my dad's parents. So my grandfather was an amputee. He was an ex-military. He was an amputee. My father on drugs would go take care of my grandfather at night, leave my grandfather's house at 7 in the morning, go take care of my grandmother for the rest of the day. Constant. And my grandmother said to him, "You can't take care of me if you're on drugs. You can't." She wasn't worried about him stealing nothing, none of that. But she said, "You can't take care of me. If you're gonna be on drugs, you can't take care of me." All those rehabs that my dad had been in and out of, that her saying he couldn't take care of her, that's what cleaned him up. Because it hurt him that he couldn't take care of his mother. Word bond to Allah. And my dad stayed clean from 2011 until he passed in like 2020. I think that's when he passed. 2020, 21. He stayed clean. And the day before he passed, he and I had this conversation because we talked all the time, and he was a hustler. So he was always trying to get my social security number. I don't know what he wanted, my social security number, and I wasn't about to give it to him. Baby, just send me all your credentials. No, I will not. Uh, I'm getting insurance, Daddy. You've been getting insurance for the past 5 years. You ain't got it yet. Um, but he said to me, he said, I can't, because I said, Dad, I said, you know, are there any times where where things get so hard that you just want to like go back? He said, I can't go back. He said, if I go back, I'm dead. He said, one hit, I'm dead. I already know. So when he passed, his siblings were quick to say, oh, he died from drug overdose. I said, not my daddy. Not my daddy. My daddy made a promise that he was going to stay clean. Now, this is a man that I loved him so much that, because again, he was 16 years old, just turned 16 years old. A few days after I was born. Only thing he ever bought me was a pair of zebra striped pants and a white top. But that was my dad. And then when he was on drugs, every time he saw me, he gave me $5 and said, baby, go buy something nice for yourself. But he said, when the autopsy came back, I eulogized both of my parents. When the autopsy came back, my dad's system was clean. So my aunt called, and I was like, I told you. My daddy said he wasn't doing drugs. But my dad was the type of person who, the people who because he was a drug dealer who became his own supplier. But some of the people in the neighborhood who he got hooked onto drugs, if they needed a place to stay, if they were hungry, if they needed to shower, they went straight to my daddy's house. If they needed to just sleep, they went to my dad's house because they knew they were safe. So I look at the beauty of both of my parents, and then I look at me now, and I carry, by Allah's permission, I carry the beauty of my parents.
That you do, Queen.
So it's like, how can I be mad at them? Allah took the best parts of them and deposited the best parts of them in me. So I can't be mad. Can't be mad at them. I'm an extension of them.
That you are. I tell my daughters we used to tell them that all the time. You're a reflection of me. And to this day, they say, yep, Daddy, I'm a reflection of you.
See, when you're young, you be like, oh my God, can you stop saying that? But as
you get it.
I get it. And yeah. I say some things, and I hear my dad. I say some things, or I look a certain way, I see my mother. And the last thing my dad said to me, he said, baby, don't worry about things you can't do nothing about. I said, okay, Daddy. He said, no, you hear me? Don't worry about things you can't do nothing about. I said, yes, sir, Daddy. Now, I take that advice sometimes, but not all the time. But then his voice will ring in my mind. You can't do nothing about that.
This has been it's been one of the easiest conversations I've had on this podcast in a long time.
Oh, praise be to Allah.
So I want to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm like this with everybody. One thing people can say, the YaSINAH that everybody else gets, I'm just this way. Life is beautiful.
That it is.
And
I'm sorry. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we wrap it up? Because
just thank you for inviting me on, and I pray to Allah that some of what I shared in our conversation that it would help uh, anyone who listens, and it'll help them to advance their thinking, advance their spirit, and advance their soul to a higher echelon where they can become one with God. That's it.
That's a lot right there. So salute to you, Queen. Um, and I gotta, I'd be remiss if I don't thank the student minister. Like anytime he can, he puts me in rooms with greatness. And I will forever be thankful for that. You
Yes,
know,
that's my brother.
yeah, it's my guy right there. Shout out to you, Troy. On that note, I'll be back in about an hour. I gotta run upstairs, and if my dog does not stop whining, because it's driving me crazy. To be unemployed, this dog just makes a lot of noise.
Those the ones that make all the noise, the ones with no money.
Like, bruh, go get a job and come back. So, like, anyway, um, um, I don't know if there's anything I can possibly do for you in the future, but if there is, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I got you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, and before we go, if no one has told you, if no one has told you today, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you too. May Allah bless you with continuous success.
Well, thank you. Same to you. You have a phenomenal evening on purpose.
You too. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.
Yo, that was really, 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 really dope. Um, sometimes I have sometimes I have to remind myself how blessed I am, and some days I don't. This is one of those days I don't have to remind myself. It's just evident. And thank you. Y'all have why y'all didn't tell me about my eye back at me. Look at that. Yeah, nobody told me about that. Y'all whack. Anyway, I'll be back in about an hour. This is Jobs. This has been another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, and I'm out.